In a world that celebrated conformity and practicality, a few men stood apart. They were misfits, not in the sense of being failures, but in the sense that they refused to settle for mediocrity. While others measured success by profit margins or societal approval, these men measured it by a different standard: perfection. Every bolt, every curve, every gear had to feel right, not just mechanically, but emotionally, aesthetically. They were engineers, dreamers, and obsessives, and history would soon remember them as the founders of Rolls Royce. The story begins in the early 20th century, a time when automobiles were still a luxury, often unreliable and crude. Most car makers focused on producing vehicles that just worked. But our protagonists, Charles Rolls and Henry Royce, saw something different. Royce, a meticulous engineer, believed a car should operate like a fine watch, precise and dependable. Rolls, a daring aristocrat with a love for speed and innovation, envisioned vehicles that combined elegance with performance. Separately, they were remarkable. Together, they were unstoppable. What made them outsiders was not just their ambition, but their vision. While others chased trends, they chased mastery. Royce spent long nights in his workshop, redesigning engines repeatedly, seeking that elusive balance between power and smoothness. Rolls traveled across Europe, studying the latest in automotive engineering, always looking for innovation others ignored. Society saw them as eccentric, maybe even obsessive, but these misfits were quietly laying the foundation for something legendary. The misfit label was almost poetic. Charles Rolls came from wealth but sought thrill over comfort, pushing the limits of speed when most preferred safety. Henry Royce, on the other hand, had risen from modest beginnings, honing his mechanical skills through sheer dedication and countless failures. Society often mistook him for overambitious or unrealistic, but where others saw limitations, these men saw possibilities. Their meeting was serendipitous, yet inevitable. In 1904, Rolls visited Royce's workshop to inspect a car Royce had built. It was more than a vehicle. It was a statement, a machine, crafted with love, precision, and patience. Rolls recognized kindred spirit in Royce, someone who shared his obsession with excellence. Royce, in turn, saw in Rolls a partner who could bridge the world of mechanical perfection with business acumen and flair. Two misfits, by chance, had found each other. The partnership that emerged was built not on compromise, but on a shared, almost fanatical pursuit of perfection. What followed was not an immediate triumph. The automotive world was competitive and harsh. Critics mocked them, investors hesitated, and production was painstakingly slow. But Rolls and Royce were undeterred. They understood that greatness required patience. They believed that every detail, from the quietest engine hum to the smoothest ride, mattered. They knew that the world might not understand their obsession at first, but history would. Their early cars, simple by today's standards, were revolutionary then. Royce's engineering genius ensured reliability no one else could match. Rolls' insistence on elegance and refinement gave the cars a presence beyond their mechanical brilliance. Together, they were redefining what a car could be, not just transportation, but art, science, and luxury in perfect harmony. The lesson of these misfits is clear. True innovation often comes from those who don't quite fit in. They challenge norms, ignore ridicule, and pursue their vision with unwavering determination. Charles Rolls and Henry Royce were not just building cars, they were crafting dreams, shaping an idea that would eventually become synonymous with perfection itself. Their story is a testament to the power of outsiders, the misfits who dare to dream bigger than anyone else. Against all odds, even the most brilliant visions face resistance, and for Rolls and Royce, the path to greatness was anything but smooth. The world they entered was skeptical, crowded with automakers more interested in volume than perfection. Investors demanded quick profits, society valued practicality over artistry, and competitors laughed at their insistence on absolute precision. But these misfits were not ordinary dreamers. They thrived on challenges, and adversity only sharpened their resolve. Henry Royce, a man of modest upbringing, knew hardship intimately. Before even meeting Rolls, he had endured business failures and financial strain. Many would have abandoned their ambitions after repeated setbacks, but Royce saw each failure as a lesson, a step closer to mastery. Late nights in his workshop were spent dismantling and rebuilding engines, testing tolerances, and obsessing over every minuscule detail. For him, perfection was not optional, it was a moral imperative. He refused to release any car that didn't meet his exacting standards, even when pressure from financiers mounted. Charles Rolls, the aristocrat and adventurer, faced a different kind of obstacle. He had wealth and connections, but he had to prove that his love for engineering and automobiles wasn't just a pastime. Society saw him as a thrill seeker, a man chasing speed rather than substance. But Rolls had vision. He understood that for their partnership to succeed, the cars needed to be both mechanically brilliant and aesthetically unmatched. He traveled relentlessly, observing European innovations, learning from engineers, and absorbing ideas that others dismissed. His determination to fuse elegance with engineering precision was rare, and critics often labeled him idealistic or impractical. When the two misfits finally combined forces, the challenges multiplied. Their first joint ventures were plagued by technical difficulties. Early production was slow, engines refused to behave predictably, and each car required painstaking attention to detail. The meticulous standards Royce demanded meant that fewer cars could be produced, angering investors and frustrating suppliers. Yet, the misfits refused to compromise. Rolls' diplomacy and Royce's technical mastery created a unique dynamic. They were two halves of a whole, balancing creativity with precision, daring with discipline. Public perception added another layer of difficulty. At a time when automobiles were still a novelty, many customers were wary of paying a premium for a brand they didn't yet understand. Competitors used their larger production capacity to flood the market, while Rolls and Royce produced fewer, more expensive vehicles. The misfits' obsession with quality over quantity was mocked, but this adversity only reinforced their philosophy. Excellence could not be rushed, and shortcuts would betray their vision. Financial pressure loomed constantly. Royce's insistence on engineering perfection came at a cost, and early investors were impatient. Rolls often had to negotiate contracts, reassure clients, and maintain the delicate balance between vision and viability. Every engine had to pass rigorous tests. Everybody had to glide smoothly on the chassis. Mistakes were unacceptable. For the world, these were setbacks. For Rolls and Royce, they were rites of passage. Amid these trials, their dedication began to bear fruit. Royce's engines were unmatched in reliability, and Rolls' commitment to style ensured that each car was a work of art. Early, customers who dared to invest in these misfit creations were rewarded with vehicles that outperformed every competitor, not just mechanically, but in the experience of driving itself. Word began to spread among the elite. Here was a car that combined performance, luxury, and unmatched engineering. Slowly, skepticism gave way to awe. The story of Rolls and Royce during these years is one of resilience. Misfits though they were, they turned every obstacle into an opportunity. Financial strain, public doubt, and technical challenges were not deterrents. They were proving grounds. In a world that valued expedience, they embraced patience. In a society that settled for mediocrity, they demanded excellence. Every setback was a step toward mastery, every challenge a chance to refine their dream. By the end of this period, it became clear that these misfits were not just surviving, they were shaping the future of the automobile. Their journey against the odds was a testament to what could be achieved when vision and perseverance aligned. They were outsiders in every sense, yet their impact was destined to be monumental. Rolls and Royce were not merely building cars. They were crafting perfection, challenging conventions, and redefining what it meant to dream boldly. Crafting perfection. By the time Henry Royce and Charles Rolls had survived the turbulence of their early years, they were no longer simply two dreamers tinkering with machines. They had become men with a mission to prove that the automobile could be more than a tool, more than a novelty, more than a toy for the rich. They wanted to craft something extraordinary, something that would stand apart from everything else on the road. What had once been dismissed as a misfit's dream, a mechanical curiosity hiding in workshops and whispered about in aristocratic drawing rooms, was now evolving into a blueprint for perfection. Every car they touched became a rolling manifesto, engineering, precision fused with artistic elegance, delivered with a confidence no one else dared to attempt. Henry Royce, the self-taught engineer who had clawed his way out of poverty, embodied relentless dedication. He was meticulous to the point of obsession. To him, a car was not simply a collection of parts bolted together. It was a symphony of moving components, each playing a role in harmony with the rest. If even one piece was out of tune, the whole performance suffered. Engines in Royce's mind were not just machines, they were instruments, and instruments demanded mastery. Where many manufacturers of the era were satisfied if a car could run a few hundred miles. Without breaking down, Royce refused to compromise. He demanded engines that could travel thousands of miles without faltering, suspensions that absorbed punishment yet glided like silk, and tolerances so tight that every movement felt deliberate. He studied vibration, noise, and material fatigue. He measured the subtle hum of pistons, the faint shudder of wheels, the way the air whispered around the cabin. Nothing escaped him. Driving, Royce believed, should feel effortless, an experience of smooth continuity, not the rough, jarring ordeal many drivers accepted as normal. And then there was Charles Rolls, the aristocrat with vision. Where Royce saw gears, bearings, and tolerances, Rolls saw elegance, proportion, and beauty. He believed that a car's appearance was inseparable from its performance. A machine could not be truly excellent if it did not inspire admiration. At first glance, to Rolls, a motor car had to be more than transportation. It had to be a statement of taste, refinement, and cultural authority. Each body was shaped not only for utility, but for presence. Whether it was crafted in polished wood or sleek steel, every line had to exude grace. Every detail had to project authority. Rolls knew the world of aristocrats and industrialists, and he understood the psychology of luxury. A Rolls Royce was not meant to blend into the background, it was meant to command the road even while standing still. The combination of Royce's mechanical obsession and Rolls' aristocratic vision was revolutionary. Alone, they might have built competent cars. Together, they created cultural icons. Their first true masterpiece arrived in 1907, the Silver Ghost. Even in its own time, it was hailed as the best car in the world. And it wasn't just marketing bravado. It earned the title because it proved what seemed impossible. Its engine ran so quietly that journalists described it as ghostly. It glided over rough roads, muted rattles, and handled long distances with a calmness no rival could match. In an age when most cars were unreliable, contraptions that broke down constantly, the Silver Ghost demonstrated that an automobile could be a trusted companion, not just a risky indulgence. The Silver Ghost wasn't merely a machine, it was an experience. Its silent yet powerful engine, its comfortable suspension, and its refined interior redefined what driving meant. For the first time, owning a car wasn't about enduring noise, breakdowns, and discomfort. It was about enjoying a smooth journey that felt closer to art than mechanics and Rolls and Royce didn't stop there. Perfection in their eyes was never a destination but a pursuit. They introduced features unheard of at the time: finely calibrated instruments, suspensions tuned with mathematical precision, interiors designed with an almost obsessive attention to human comfort. The placement of pedals, the stitching of leather, the curve of a dashboard, every detail was studied, tested, and refined. The car was not a collection of parts. It was an ecosystem, a living whole in which everything worked seamlessly together. Unlike many rivals, they rejected the idea of mass production. The early 20th century was an era when industrialists like Henry Ford were proving the power of assembly lines. But Rolls and Royce weren't chasing numbers. They were chasing perfection. Each car was crafted by skilled artisans, shaped and assembled by hand. No two cars were identical, but each carried the same uncompromising standard. It was an approach that infuriated businessmen obsessed with efficiency, but it became the hallmark of the brand. Luxury, they understood, could not be rushed. It had to be earned hour by hour, weld by weld, polish by polish. This philosophy turned every Rolls Royce into a creation, not a product. The impact was immediate. Royals, magnates, and cultural icons began to seek them out. To own a Rolls Royce was not merely to display wealth, it was to declare discernment, intellect, and vision. The early owners weren't just buying cars, they were investing in ideals. They were aligning themselves with the notion that human ingenuity, when paired with patience and obsession, could achieve the extraordinary. And still, innovation pressed forward. Rolls and Royce refused to coast on reputation. They experimented with new alloys, refined engines, and even aerodynamic concepts decades before they became industry norms. Royce, driven by his relentless pursuit of reliability, tested his machines in deserts, mountains, and icy terrains, ensuring that they would perform anywhere. Rolls, with his flair for presentation, ensured that the vehicles retained elegance no matter the environment. Together, they built machines that could cross continents with dignity and arrive in style. The legacy of this era is profound. Rolls and Royce showed that engineering and artistry, we were not enemies. They proved that precision and beauty could coexist, creating results far greater than the sum of their parts. Every car that left their workshop was a reminder that mediocrity is easy, but perfection demands courage. The world takes notice. History often moves slowly when it comes to recognizing brilliance. At first, the boldest ideas are dismissed as eccentric, unrealistic, or even foolish. But when those ideas prove themselves in the real world, admiration can spread with startling speed. For Henry Royce and Charles Rolls, that turning point came when their cars began to speak for themselves. What had once been regarded as the dream of two misfits, one, a self-taught engineer, obsessed with precision, the other an aristocrat with vision and charisma, was suddenly impossible to ignore. The early critics who had scoffed at their obsession with perfection were forced to reconsider. Word of their achievements spread rapidly among the circles that mattered: the wealthy elite, industrial magnates, and even royalty. These were not ordinary automobiles. These were machines that blended mechanical reliability with elegance, so refined it seemed almost artistic. At the center of this recognition was their masterpiece, the Silver Ghost. Introduced in 1907, it quickly became the yardstick against which all other cars were measured. While competitors were still struggling to build vehicles that could last more than a few hundred miles without faltering, the Silver Ghost set new expectations for what a motor car could achieve. The Silver Ghost's test of endurance. The turning point in its reputation came through one of the boldest endurance tests ever attempted at the time. In an age when reliability was the greatest fear of any driver, Rolls Royce decided to silence doubt with action. They sent the Silver Ghost on a 15,000-mile journey across Britain and Europe, a grueling expedition designed not for spectacle but for proof. Day after day, mile after mile, the car ran without fault, where others would have rattled. Themselves apart, the Silver Ghost moved smoothly, where others would have overheated or stalled. The Silver Ghost pressed on with calm confidence. The skeptics, who had once laughed at the notion of Royce's obsession with vibration and material fatigue, suddenly had nothing left to say. When the journey was completed, the car emerged with its reputation not just intact, but transformed. Newspapers hailed it as a marvel. Engineers studied it with awe. Enthusiasts praised it as something beyond ordinary machinery. It earned the nickname the best car in the world. And for once, this wasn't marketing exaggeration, it was validation. The misfits' relentless pursuit of perfection had tangible, undeniable results. A car becomes a statement. The impact went far beyond mechanics. To own a Rolls Royce was no longer simply to purchase transportation. It was to make a statement. Aristocrats and industrialists began to seek them out, eager not just for the comfort and reliability, but for the image it projected. A Rolls Royce wasn't flashy in the way of gaudy jewelry or excessive display. Its elegance was subtler, rooted in proportion, silence, and refinement. That made it all the more powerful. To drive one, or to be driven in one, was to signal to the world that you valued not just wealth, but discernment. It told others you understood the difference between mere luxury and timeless excellence. This transformation of the car into a cultural symbol owed much to Charles Rolls' charm and social standing. Rolls had the ability to speak to aristocrats and royals as one of their own, while simultaneously promoting the genius of Henry Royce. Every sale became more than a transaction. It was almost a personal endorsement of the philosophy behind the car. Buyers felt they were not simply purchasing a machine, but joining an exclusive vision, one where precision and artistry reigned supreme. Recognition on the world stage. As recognition grew, so too did opportunities. Rolls-Royce cars began appearing at international auto shows, where their reputation for flawless engineering and understated elegance left lasting impressions. Judges handed out accolades, journalists wrote admiring reviews, and rivals grudgingly acknowledged that Rolls and Royce had changed the game. Each award, each article, and each whispered endorsement reinforced a simple truth. What had once been dismissed as eccentricity was in fact the new standard. The outsiders had forced the industry to reevaluate its priorities. No longer could manufacturers get away with poor tolerances, unreliable engines, or clumsy design. Rolls And Royce had raised the bar, and the world was taking notice. The shift was profound. In just a few years, they went from being outsiders to being regarded with veneration. The very qualities that had once made them misfits, their refusal to compromise, their obsession with detail, their insistence on blending engineering with elegance had become their greatest strengths. Innovation through recognition. This newfound recognition did not make them complacent. In fact, it fueled them. Feedback from elite customers, combined with their own restless curiosity, spurred constant refinement. Royce continued his meticulous experiments, making engines smoother, quieter, and even more durable. He tested materials, studied vibration patterns, and adjusted tolerances with almost surgical precision. Meanwhile, Rolls ensured that the exteriors and interiors kept evolving, becoming ever more luxurious and commanding. Every new model was not just a car, it was a step forward. Interiors became havens of comfort, tailored to the needs of discerning passengers. Exteriors became more striking, balanced perfectly between elegance and authority. In every iteration, Rolls-Royce sought to push boundaries, proving that excellence was not a destination, but a journey without end, influencing an entire industry. The ripple effect spread across the automotive world. Competitors who had once been dismissive now scrambled to catch up. Engineering tolerances improved industry-wide. Craftsmen were suddenly in higher demand. Customers began to expect more, no longer satisfied with the crude, rattling machines that had once defined motoring. In this way, Rolls-Royce were no longer just participants in the industry. They were trendsetters, benchmarks, and leaders. Others might still sell in higher volumes, but it was Rolls-Royce that defined the ideal to which all others aspired, inspiration beyond cars. Perhaps the most profound impact, however, was not just on customers or competitors, but on dreamers. Engineers, designers, and innovators looked at Rolls-Royce as proof that daring to be different could succeed. They showed the world that refusing to settle, even when the odds seemed stacked against you, could lead to extraordinary achievements. In workshops across Europe and beyond, young inventors found courage in their story. If two misfits, one a meticulous engineer from humble beginnings, the other a visionary aristocrat, could transform an entire industry, then perhaps their own dreams were not so impossible. From outsiders to icons. By the end of this period, Rolls-Royce had achieved what few ever do. They had secured their place in history. The doubts and struggles of their early years were now distant shadows, replaced by admiration and influence. They were no longer eccentric, outsiders tinkering on the margins. They were icons, celebrated by the very society that had once dismissed them. Their cars were not just vehicles, they were rolling testaments to human ingenuity, ambition, and the belief that true excellence requires patience, courage, and an unshakable commitment to ideals. The world had finally caught up to the vision of the misfits, and in doing so, it confirmed a timeless truth. Greatness may not be recognized immediately, but once it is, it becomes undeniable. Legacy beyond cars. The story of Rolls-Royce did not end with the automobiles that first bore their name. It extended far beyond polished engines, handcrafted interiors, and elegant bodywork. What Charles Rolls and Henry Royce truly created was not just a line of luxury cars, it was a philosophy, a way of thinking about craft, vision, and excellence that would ripple far beyond their lifetimes. They were not merely building vehicles, they were setting a standard. And that standard was rooted in obsession, integrity, and artistry. Their legacy is not measured in numbers, how many silver ghosts were produced, or how many clients they gained in the early decades. Instead, it is measured in ideals. Royce's insistence that whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble, became a creed that influenced everyone who touched the company. Rolls' flair for vision and presentation transformed engineering from a silent craft into an art form recognized around the world. Together, they demonstrated that true success is not about producing more, it is about producing better, carrying forward their ideals. Even after both founders had passed away, Rolls-Royce continued to embody the values instilled by its creators. The engineers who followed in Royce's footsteps did not treat his methods as mere technical guidelines. They treated them as a philosophy. Every bolt tightened, every panel polished, every stitch in the leather upholstery was carried out with an almost sacred respect for detail. To compromise was to betray the very spirit of the brand. Royce's obsession with reliability became a cornerstone. A Rolls-Royce engine was not supposed to be good, it was supposed to be flawless. The company's mechanics and designers adopted his relentless pursuit of perfection, believing that if a single vibration could be reduced, it must be. If a single surface could be polished to reflect more light, it should be. Rolls' influence added the dimension of elegance. He understood that beauty was not a luxury, but a necessity. A machine that functioned perfectly was impressive, but a machine that combined function with grace was unforgettable. This dual philosophy, precision fused with elegance, became the DNA of Rolls-Royce. Beyond automobiles, the influence of Rolls and Royce did not stop at the edges of the automotive world. Their reputation for uncompromising quality made Rolls-Royce a name synonymous not only with cars, but with perfection itself. When the brand expanded into aviation, it carried the same ideals into the skies. Rolls-Royce aircraft engines powered planes through wars and beyond, trusted because the company's reputation for reliability was unshakable. In marine engineering, the same philosophy applied. Every propeller, every turbine was treated as if it carried the same prestige as the Silver Ghost. This crossover showed something remarkable. Rolls and Royce had created more than a company. They had built a universal model of how excellence could be pursued. Their approach to detail inspired designers of yachts, architects of grand buildings, and even makers of luxury goods outside of transportation. To invoke the name Rolls-Royce became shorthand for saying the very best, whether it was a watch, a piano, or a hotel suite. The comparison meant the pinnacle of quality, cultural symbolism. Culturally, Rolls-Royce evolved into more than a product. It became an aspiration, a symbol of refinement and achievement. To own one was not merely to possess a vehicle. It was to align oneself with a philosophy. Royals chose them because they signaled dignity and stability. Celebrities chose them because they symbolized success and taste. Visionaries chose them because they reflected an appreciation for both engineering and article. The cars themselves became characters in stories of wealth, creativity, and influence. They appeared in films as emblems of power, in music as metaphors for status, and in literature as symbols of timeless elegance. And yet, behind all the glamour, what made them significant was not the leather seats or the polished chrome. It was the enduring spirit of their creators. Every hum of the engine, every graceful line of the bodywork whispered of Royce's sleepless nights, perfecting an engine design and Rolls' insistence on elegance that could not be ignored, influence on industry and individuals. Perhaps even more profound than the cultural symbolism was the way Rolls and Royce influenced countless creators and industries. Competitors, once dismissive of the misfits, were forced to raise their standards. The idea that attention to detail, once considered obsessive, could define success, reshaped the expectations of engineering worldwide. For individuals, their story carried inspiration. Young engineers looked to Royce and learned that brilliance could be self-taught, forged through discipline and an uncompromising refusal to accept mediocrity. Dreamers looked to Rolls and understood that vision, charisma, and boldness were as important as technical ability. Together, they proved that creativity and precision were not opposing forces, they were partners in innovation, the misfits' gift. In the end, perhaps the most enduring aspect of their legacy lies in the fact that Rolls and Royce were outsiders. They were misfits who did not fit into the mold society prepared for them. Royce was too sickly and too poor to be expected to rise into prominence. Rolls were too eccentric, too restless, too unconventional to follow a traditional aristocratic path. Yet, it was precisely because they did not conform that they were able to redefine what was possible. Their journey offers a reminder to every generation. Outsiders often see what insiders overlook. Misfits, precisely because they are restless, have the potential to push humanity forward. Rolls and Royce proved that it is not comfort that breeds greatness, but discomfort, dissatisfaction with what exists, and the courage to create what does not yet exist. An eternal lesson. Ultimately, their journey from misfits to icons teaches a timeless truth. Greatness is rarely born from comfort or conformity. It is not the product of those who settle for good enough. It is forged in the fires of obsession, in the willingness to push past limits, in the courage to defy convention, and in the dedication to pursue perfection even when it seems unattainable. The story of Rolls and Royce endures because it is not just about two men and their machines. It is about the human spirit itself. It is about what happens when vision is paired with discipline, when artistry is fused with engineering, and when two outsiders refuse to compromise. Their mark is not just etched into the grills of luxury cars or the wings of aircraft engines, it is etched into the very idea of excellence. Generations later, the world still speaks their names with reverence, not only because they built extraordinary machines, but because they built an extraordinary philosophy. Rolls and Royce showed us that when brilliance refuses to compromise, when misfits refuse to surrender, the legacy created is not temporary, it is eternal. Their story reminds us that the true measure of success is not wealth or fame, but influence, the ability to reshape how the world thinks, dreams, and creates. And in that sense, the misfits who once struggled to be understood left behind something greater than cars. They left behind a timeless standard of what human ambition, artistry, and courage can achieve when they refuse to settle for anything less than perfection. If you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more epic automotive adventures. Your support keeps these stories alive